Howdy folks, and welcome back to the first Mingles and the first video of 2022. I hope you've all had a fantastic Christmas. And I don't want to call 2022 too early because I can remember about a year ago at this time we were all saying to ourselves, well, that's 2020 over and done with. At least 2021 couldn't possibly be any worse than that. So, yeah, and then 2021 said, hold my beer. I just hope you've all had a good time while I've been away over the course of the last 2 weeks, taking my alleged Christmas break, and yep, sure enough, I got bored halfway through and started doing some videos, but hey, what else is new? But 2022 is shaping up to be a potentially pretty big year for me. I have some fairly big news. Well, it's big for me, it's probably not going to affect any of you too much. Oh, what's the best way to say this? Well, I may as well just come out and say it. I picked the worst possible time to do it because it was right before New Year's Eve. In fact, it was the day before New Year's Eve. Jingles, what are you talking about? Get to the point. I know, okay. Right before New Year's Eve, I made an offer on a property. And this is massive news for me because I have never owned my own place before. My entire life, I've lived in rented accommodation. Either that or I was accommodated by the Navy. And for the last 15 years, I've been saving up to buy my own place. Actually, it's probably slightly more than 15 years. At the point where I finally paid off all of the debts that I'd accrued when I was young and stupid my first 10 years in the Navy. I started putting all that money away, and since I started doing YouTube, I've been saving money every month because I'm one of those people that I don't do credit. I just don't like owing people money. I don't have any credit cards. I don't have any loans. I don't have any hire purchase agreements. I don't have any leases on anything. I don't even have an overdraft on my bank account. If I want something and I can't afford it, I don't take out a loan, I don't buy it on a credit agreement, I just do without until I can afford it. So I've been saving and saving and saving for the best part of the last 15 to 20 years, and I've finally spotted the property that I really, really want, and I can't afford to buy it outright because that would be crazy. But I can afford to put a 50% deposit down and get a mortgage for the rest. So I am finally, at the age of nearly 52 years old, going to be a first-time buyer, living in my own place and not paying rent to anybody. And it's terrifying. It really, really is the scariest thing I have ever done. I've made an offer on the property. The estate agent got back to me the same day. A couple of hours later, after calling the owner was happy to accept in principle, but they needed to speak to their partner first. And of course, this was the day before New Year's Eve. So it's been 3 days since I got the provisional acceptance from the estate agent, but of course they don't work New Year's Eve, they don't work the weekend, and they're not going to be working the bank holiday. So it's going to be Tuesday before I know for sure whether or not my offer's been accepted. So I may be jumping the gun here, but I'm just so terrified, but in a good way. I went to see the place on Thursday, the same day I made the offer. And I wasn't going to do this in this episode of Mingles with Jingles because anything could happen, right? The offer hasn't been completely accepted yet. So this time next week, I might be starting Mingles with Jingles by saying, well, it turns out I'm not going to be moving into this property after all. And I didn't want to show you what I'm going to show you until the offer had been accepted and we were ready to move forward with paperwork, but I'm just too excited not to. While I was viewing the property last week, on the day that I made the offer, I took some video. And, well, this is it. So, this is the master bedroom. There are two of these cupboards. Yeah, one here. Space in between the two cupboards for a small desk with some power sockets. There's the second cupboard. The master bedroom has an ensuite bathroom. And this is it. Hallway. Here's the proper bathroom, starring a surprise Rita, who came round to look at the place with me. Second bedroom, Basically, there are 3 bedrooms. Each of them can fit a double bed. Storage closet down here. Entry phone. The third bedroom, which will probably end up being the man cave. Set it up for a recording studio and a modelling workshop. And now the upstairs. This is a duplex flat. There's only one room upstairs, and it's absolutely massive. So this is the lounge and kitchen. It's the estate agent. He didn't realise I was filming. Kitchen in the corner. Gas oven. Garbage disposal. Look at the size of that room. Man, I love this place. And I won't know whether or not my offer has actually been accepted until tomorrow at the earliest. And we're not quite done. Here's the entrance hall. And the estate agent again. End of the entrance hall, front door, and utility cupboard with the gas heater. So that's it. And I won't know for sure whether or not my offer has been accepted until tomorrow at the earliest. Did I mention I'm absolutely terrified? Because I am, but in a good way. So, well, fingers crossed, I guess. Well, that's my big news for 2022. It's pretty big. The good thing is, though, and I don't want to start going into financial details for, fairly obvious reasons, but because I was able to save up enough over the course of the last 15 to 20 years to put a 50% deposit down on this place, because I don't want to be owing the bank money for the next 25 years, because I might not be alive in 25 years, and, well, this YouTube gig might not last forever. But because I was able to save up enough for a 50% deposit, that means I can pay the rest off over 5 years. And I'm not going to be paying that much more than I currently pay in rent anyway. So it's more or less going to work out to a cost-neutral mortgage. Did I mention I'm terrified? And my big fear, of course, is that I'm going to be starting off next week's episode of Mingles with Jingles by saying, well, the deal fell through, so I'm not going to be moving into that place that I showed you last week. Oh, yeah. Anyway, fingers crossed. It's time. I'm not getting any younger. I need my own place. I can't be paying rent my whole life. Although, well, that is kind of the reality for most people these days. I think my generation were the last generation that grew up with the expectation of having a job their whole life, buying their own home, and being able to put enough money away for a pension. That hasn't been true for most people since at least 1990. People my age and older give millennials and subsequent generations shit. But they're growing up in a very unfriendly economic environment. And, well, the reality is that most of them can't afford to get onto the property ladder. And they are going to be living in rented accommodation their whole lives. If it wasn't for the fact that I've been basically living debt-free and saving money for the last generation, that I would not have been able to do this. Think about that for a second. Just put this into perspective. Because I have been saving money for this probably for as long, if not longer, than a lot of you watching this video have been alive. And I'm still only able to afford half of the asking price of the place that I want to move into. And you look at the majority of people today, under the age of 40, who are working on contracts. They don't have permanent employment with any one job. They probably don't have a pension plan. And even if they do, there's no guarantee that some hedge fund manager isn't going to run away with it to the Seychelles. They're probably living in rented accommodation. They're probably saddled with credit debt for the rest of their adult lives. There is just no chance that they're ever going to be able to get onto that property ladder. They're going to be in the same situation 20 years from now. No job security, no pension, and those are the lucky ones, living in developed countries. So, I mean, yeah, I don't kid myself about how lucky I actually have been. Although, was it all luck? I mean, you could argue that being as successful as I am on YouTube, there is definitely a huge element of luck involved there, because there are plenty of people with YouTube channels who are way better at what they do than I am, but they just don't have the subscribers because I was lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time and get noticed. But on the other hand, while I was incredibly stupid in my first 5 years or so in the Navy and got into horrendous debt, there was no luck whatsoever involved in getting myself out of that debt and learning to live within my means and saving money instead of spending it. Well, I don't know. It wasn't all me. Without going into the gory details, I took out all kinds of bad loans and hire purchase agreements and just spent money that I didn't have when I first joined the Navy. And then when I finally came to my senses, I went to my bank. I would have been about 25 years old, and I said, help. And they said, okay, we'll buy off all of your debts and we'll consolidate them into one loan from us, which you can pay off however much you're comfortable with paying per month. And that went on for a good 7 or 8 years until I was finally debt free. But during that time, I'd gotten used to not having a lot of money. And I'd learned to live within my means and not have a bank overdraft to abuse and not have credit cards to abuse. So when those debts were paid off, I was suddenly comparatively earning a fortune. But I'd gotten used to living without spending a lot of money. And so instead of just suddenly starting to spend a lot of money, I saved the money that would have been going into paying off all the debts that I'd just paid off. And now here I am, 20 years later. And I still haven't saved up enough to buy a place outright, so I have to go into debt again. Although, to be fair, very, very few people ever earn enough money to buy a property outright. But I don't have to go into debt for very long. So, hopefully, by tomorrow, maybe, I'll know whether or not I'm going to be moving into the home of my dreams. And if not, I'm going to be looking pretty damn stupid this time next week on Mingles with Jingles. Oh, and in case anyone was wondering, once I've, fingers crossed, moved in and unpacked everything, I will be doing a video tour. Which, incidentally, is the reason why, because a number of you keep asking, I have not done a video tour where I currently live. Because it's not mine. And it's, quite frankly, not a great house. I mean, it'll do. I've been living here 15 years, paying rent. But it's not mine, and it's an old Navy married quarter. And those things were built by the lowest bidder, and it kind of shows. The building quality is not fantastic, but it is big, and it does have a lot of space. And, well, the landlord had the kitchen redone last year. The landlord's actually been really, really good. But hopefully, soon, I won't be paying him rent anymore. Instead, that money is going to be going to the bank in order to pay off a mortgage. So I'll keep you all posted as to how it goes. Hopefully I'll know for sure one way or the other by this time tomorrow, or possibly the day after. But, well, yeah. Getting on the property ladder. That's my big news for 2022. And the year's only 3 days old. Wow. Anyway, moving on. And this is kind of related, I suppose. So, over the last couple of months, I've been noticing some comments. And not many of them, but in my experience, if a few people are saying something, then a lot of people are thinking it, they're just not saying it. And it probably hasn't escaped your attention, and, well, hopefully it hasn't escaped your attention, because if it has, I've been doing it wrong, that I've been taking on some sponsorships lately. Specifically, NordPass sponsorships in Mingles with Jingles and the occasional Audible sponsorship in a World of Warships video. This seems to be upsetting some of you, and I guess I can kind of understand that, specifically in Mingles with Jingles, which is, thanks to everybody who supports me on Patreon, advert free. So why are there sponsored sections in episodes of Mingles with Jingles? Well, technically Mingles with Jingles is advert free, because I do not run YouTube adverts on Mingles with Jingles. I realise that, yeah, I'm kind of splitting hairs here, because what is a sponsored section if not an advert? Unfortunately, and this has been true for a couple of years now, and this isn't the first time I've mentioned it, YouTube isn't really paying the bills anymore. I'm sitting at 650,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you, by the way, everybody who noticed and gave me their congratulations. It does feel good. And while I'm certainly not struggling to put food on the table, YouTube is not the place that it was 5 years ago. I've said this before, it was true then, I'll say it again today, because it's equally true. With 650,000 subscribers on YouTube, the ad revenue from that is less than it was 6-7 years ago with 200,000 subscribers. That, unfortunately, is the harsh reality of YouTube these days. Partially, this is my fault. Partially, it's the fault of YouTube, because they're idiots. And partially, it's the fault of the advertisers, because they're lazy idiots. Quick summary here for you of what became known as the adpocalypse on YouTube, and none of this was my fault. We'll go into what was my fault after. The advertisers, because they're lazy idiots, were just handing YouTube a bunch of money and saying, stick these on whatever videos are going to earn us the most income. They didn't care where the adverts were run. All they were interested in was the bottom line. YouTube, because they're idiots, allowed their algorithm to decide which adverts got run on which videos, and what ended up happening was that, for example, and again I'm kind of simplifying matters here, but for example, YouTube ended up running adverts on things like ISIS recruitment videos, and the advertisers were horrified and withdrew their advertising dollars. And again, I'm oversimplifying vastly here, but because money is the only thing that makes Google sit up and pay attention, YouTube's reaction was to instantly put a bottom limit on who could and couldn't monetize their videos, which overnight killed off almost all of the smaller content creators. Yep, that's right. Just for a change, big companies conspire to screw everything up, and the little people are the ones that actually end up paying the price. The other effect was a massive reduction in the amount of advertising revenue that started getting paid out, because the advertising money just wasn't there anymore. And that's partially why I'm earning less with 650,000 subscribers than I was earning with 200,000 subscribers 7 or 8 years ago. The other reason why I'm earning less is because I limit the adverts that get run anyway, because I don't like watching adverts on YouTube videos. And I'm pretty sure that most of you don't like watching adverts on YouTube videos either, which is why so many of you use ad blockers and feel the need to complain when I run a sponsored segment on an episode of Mingles with Jingles, although not this one, or a World of Warships video. But one thing that you don't know is that I do not run the full range of adverts on my monetized videos that most other people on YouTube do. And what I mean by that is that when I upload a video to YouTube and I turn the monetization on, I go to the monetization section and I disable non-skippable video ads. All those ads that you can't skip and you have to sit through, you shouldn't be seeing any of those on any of my videos, because I wouldn't want to sit through a non-skippable advertisement on a YouTube video, so I turn them off on my videos for you. In addition to that, I also, by default, disable mid-roll advertising. What that means is that you shouldn't be watching one of my videos and then halfway through you have to stop and watch an advertisement. I wouldn't want to watch that, so I disable it for you guys. In fact, I've seen certain YouTube channels that I used to be big fans of and which I am no longer subscribed to, where over the course of a 15-minute video there would be 4 advertising breaks. There should not be any of that on any of my videos because they're really annoying. I wouldn't want to sit through any of that garbage, so I've disabled them for you. Now, I have absolutely no doubt that this, turning off non-skippable videos and turning off mid-video ad breaks, is probably costing me a ton of money. And is almost certainly another one of the reasons why YouTube just isn't paying as much as it was a couple of years ago. But, well, in my opinion, it's worth it. Because I want my channel to be the kind of place that people look forward to coming to. I want people to enjoy the videos and not have to sit through unskippable advertising at multiple points during the course of a 20-minute video. Because that sucks. And if that's going to cost me money, well, that's the price I'm prepared to pay. However, sponsorships help offset that. That is the harsh reality of the economic environment that we live in. But when I do run a sponsorship on a video, I will put a timestamp in there So unlike a non-skippable mid-roll video ad provided by YouTube, you can skip the sponsored sections if you want to. I'm also highly selective, much more so than a lot of YouTube channels, about the kind of sponsorships that I accept in the first place. Just to give you an example, over the course of my 2-week Christmas break, I received no less than 57 offers of sponsorship from different companies, none of which I accepted. Because I don't like their products, I don't use their products, and I wouldn't be happy recommending them to you guys because I don't think you would like them or use them either. Which is why over the course of the last, 2 years, I've only accepted sponsorships from Nord's Password Manager and Amazon Audible, because I do use both of those products, I do like them, and, well, based on the response, apparently a lot of you guys do as well. And that's it. Unlike a lot of much, much bigger YouTube channels with millions of subscribers, I do not run unskippable video ads, I do not run ads mid-video, and I don't have a sponsorship in every video I upload, advertising products I've never heard of, that I would never use if I had heard of, and certainly wouldn't recommend to any of you. Unfortunately, that is just the harsh fact of how YouTube channels make their money these days. It's through the sponsorships. It's definitely not through the YouTube advertising. And, well, the curated sponsorships that I do run are few and far between, and they are actually products that I use, and I'm happy to recommend. And it could be a lot worse. You could be seeing unskippable video advertising multiple points during the course of a video, and at the beginning listen to me telling you how great Raid Shadow Legends is. Because, trust me, they have offered many, many times. But unfortunately, I do still have a few shreds of self-respect. Anyway, that's the situation. Thanks for sticking with it to the end. I hope you've all had a fantastic Christmas, and I sincerely hope that 2022 isn't going to be any worse than 2021. In the meantime, as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.